Welcome to My Healthy Broadband Live, a new monthly interactive broadcast designed to address the great digital divide and why it really does matter. Whether you're leading your family, organization, or community, it's important for all types of leaders to address the connectivity and knowledge gaps that really do affect our health, education, and ability to thrive economically, and to have the resources, knowledge, and tools to do something about it. Powered by the Force for Health Network, with co-hosts Lucy Howell and Dr. Robert Gillia, and in partnership with the Arizona Broadband Stakeholders Network, with coordinator Steve Peters, this live interactive broadcast explores how both the connectivity and the knowledge on how to use it really does shape our outcomes with regards to health, learning, and greater economic opportunities for everybody. Viewers are invited to engage live across Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and interact in the comments throughout the broadcast. Together, we're elevating the conversation around broadband as a basic need and showcasing the people and programs working to make inclusion a reality. This is My Healthy Broadband, and this is just the beginning. Now let's meet our co-hosts for today's episode. Hello, everybody. Hello. That was a little loud. Sorry about that. This is Lucy Howell and Mr. Steve Peters, and we are kicking off our second, I'll call it season, of My Healthy Broadband here with the whole notion of wanting to break the digital divide, right? We want to tackle the digital divide together. We have a wonderful guest who has been in the library space most of her career, 50 plus, so we'll be bringing him up a little bit later. And but for now, Steve, we have been through a journey, right? Just to really quickly recap the first 3 episodes, we talked about how it was a social determinant of health. I believe Rob just possibly joined to be included in this wonderful season 2. So part of what we're trying to do is amplify the fact that connectivity matters, especially with regards to digital connectivity. And that's why we're so excited to partner on this series with the Arizona Broadband Stakeholders Network, of which you are leading and partnering with us on, right?
Right.
So a little, opening statement onto I was just going to take 1 minute and recap. So this is all on the website. And as you join the network and lean into the conversations, folks, if you're watching from YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, feel free to comment and we can bring some interactive comments in. But it really is designed to take the conversations from the professionals and face them out to families and community leaders. So we can really amplify how important it is that connectivity matters in all shapes and forms. The first episode, we talked about that exactly. The second episode, we went to the rural. So there's a big focus on connecting our rural communities in here. And our third episode was talking about coming back to the family and how you could create that force field around yourself with cybersecurity tips from Scotty Ward. Okay, so right now we are, I'm going to take that off and come back to our executive partnership team here. Steve, it's been since November since we had our December. So
it's been a while.
State of Union, I've got a little bit of echo, so I apologize about that. State of Union from the Arizona Broadband Stakeholders Digital Equity Task Force partner.
Okay, so as Lucy was indicating, I coordinate the Arizona Broadband Digital Access, Broadband and Digital Access Task Force. It's a part of the Arizona Broadband Digital Broadband Network. And we've been around for a long time. Really, the task force really got started when we hit COVID and recognized the importance of getting people, not only the broadband and getting people connected, but also we've been using the term digital access for a long time, and probably is a good term to use in today's political environment. But we're really talking about that in addition to having that connectivity, that we also people have to have the skills. They need to have the technology. They need to, as Lucy mentioned earlier, cybersecurity, whole range of issues and resources that people have to be able to effectively participate. So I don't know, Lucy, if I need to say anything more than that, other than I do want to invite people. We do meet at 8 o'clock every Thursday morning. We usually have 30 to 60 people who participate, and we cover everything about what's happening at the federal level with policy related issues to what people are doing, sharing presentations on amazing stuff that people, amazing work that people are doing, whole range of discussions. So we encourage you all to participate in our meetings.
Which is the bottom right QR code that'll take you to that site and link you up to that information. So this is an open call. If you care about the health education and kind of like anything related to connectivity with regards to broadband, internet, digital literacy, et cetera, join that open call. That's bottom right. Rob, I'm going to bring you to the stage. We are talking today about tackling the Great Divide, but hyper-focusing on E-rate and libraries. So before we introduce Kelly, who will be introducing our next speaker, speak to us just what's your opening thoughts here, partner?
You said E-rate. E-rate makes me think of electricity, not just the E-rate program. And electricity changed people's lives. It became one of the most important utilities, a luxury for some initially, but it became a utility, just like running water. My contention is that broadband is just as important a utility as electrification and running water for the health, safety, and success of our residents of our country, frankly, the world. So broadband is and should be a publicly available utility at reasonable cost for everyone to thrive.
I think that that's a perfect segue into let's take it down to a state level, right? So you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
State college, rural, expert in rural disparities within the health space, right? Testified, national, state, et cetera. But right now with this partnership, we're going to kind of focus on the state of Arizona and continue to do so. Very, very excited to one of our foundational partners. She's been jumped in from the get-go when we started this effort last April, right, Steve? Kelly, she runs a program and project called AZ1 MAP, which is out and hosted out of the chief executive, CIO office of ASU. And she really has spent her time developing the partnerships and the stories of this wonderfully interactive map, right? That kind of started with the Maricopa focus, but now serves the state. So Kelly, welcome back to the show, co-host. And it's our pleasure to have you introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for having me back. Like Lucy said, I'm Kelly Mukherjee from ASU's Enterprise Technology, where I support CIO Lev Gonick in our digital inclusion efforts through an initiative called AZ1. So today, it is truly an honor to introduce a leader whose impact on digital inclusion in Arizona cannot be overstated. For more than 5 decades, Mala Muralidharan has been a driving force behind expanding broadband access, strengthening our libraries, and ensuring that communities across our state are not left behind in the digital age. Through her visionary leadership, Arizona libraries, have secured tens of millions of dollars in E-rate funding, transforming them into vital connectivity hubs for families, students, seniors, and job seekers. Her work laid much of the foundation for the collaborative spirit behind initiatives like AZ1, bringing partners together as one to advance broadband access, digital literacy, and opportunities statewide. Mala's legacy is one of service, strategy, and deep commitment to equity, and we're all benefiting from the pathways she helped build. On the AZ1 web portal, we've actually showcased some stories in partnership with Mala to talk about E-rate and celebrate Mala's 50-year legacy. So let me share my screen on that.
Oops.
Yeah,
That's
let me
on
share
me.
my screen.
That's
I'm going
on
to
me.
share.
1 second. Let me go ahead and add
Thank
that.
you. I'm going to share a few screens so people can see what those look like, so you can recognize them when you're on the As One web portal. Here's one example E-rate story in which you can come and listen to them. Our students have been very thoughtful in providing accessibility. So in case you'd like audio better than reading, you have that option on our web portal, and you can scroll through to read or listen to the story at your convenience. Another one that showcases Mala and her 50-year legacy is this story right here, talking about her lifelong journey. 50 years is very impressive, and so we're proud to have shared her story here on As One. It's actually a global story, so we definitely advise you to come and take a look and get to know Mala through this story. And then lastly, before I pass it over to Mala, is that we have even showcased some testimonies. Mala has provided this testimony where she is a deep contributor to the Schools, Health, and Libraries Broadband Coalition, also known as Shelby. They're doing a flyby next week, or actually this week. It already happened. And so this is where we've actually shared a quote from Mala here on LinkedIn. So just wanted to share some of these. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mala.
Mala.
Hi.
So
Hi,
excited
everyone.
to, wonderful to see you. And we've been wanting you on as a guest since our very first episode. So, we are good to go. Steve, you want to go ahead and kick off the conversation here? Oh, yep. And I think it really was,
There you go.
Perfect.
So as I started to say, I don't know much about Mala. We've only been friends and compadres for 30 some odd, 20, 30 years or so. she's been a great partner and friend for a long time, and have enjoyed her contributions, which Kelly did a great job. But she also was, among other things, was one of the founders of AZBSN, as the Arizona Broadband and Digital Inclusion Network. And so we appreciate all that great work that you've done, Mala. But what's most important, I guess, is the amount of money that you have brought to this state with the great work that you have done as the E-rate administrator for the Arizona State Library Archives and Public Records. And so, Mala, can you tell us, a lot of people don't know what E-rate is, how it's funded, where it comes from, and how people get access to those funds. And so could you kind of give us an overview of what what E-rate is, and then what your job is to bring all that great money into Arizona?
Absolutely. And Kelly, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And Lucy, for providing us the forum to talk more about broadband and its impact on not only Arizona, but the whole country. Yes, Steve and I have known each other for a long, long time, 3 decades and more, perhaps. What is E-rate? E-rate, some people don't notice, most of us don't notice that we pay a tiny fee called Universal Service Fund to in our phone bills. Those of us who still have our landlines, those few dollars from each of our phone bills actually go to a central collection from where it is redistributed to schools and libraries under the term E-rate. And this was through the Telecommunications Act of 1996. And early February, we celebrated 30 years of this becoming an act that could help us distribute the funds through. It's a complicated process to distribute these funds through schools and to schools and libraries through the Universal Service Administrative Company. They create the guidelines, FCC creates the rules, and the funds are distributed through them to the schools and libraries. Now, anniversaries are, of course, a great time to take stock and see how well this program has done. This program has really changed the face of our schools and libraries and made broadband, I would like to call it universally accessible, but it's not yet there. We hopefully will get there soon, but at least the schools and libraries have as much broadband as they would need for the services that are slowly becoming not just books, to books that students or families borrow, but also e-resources and a lot of programs that are digital, which can only happen because of E-rate. So far as Arizona is concerned, we have received about $1.83 billion from 1998. We receive about an average of about 70 million each year for our schools and libraries. Schools are great consumers of E-rate, and if we didn't have E-rate, they wouldn't be able to afford the bandwidth at the rates at which they are subscribing to them right now for all of their services. Does that explain kind of what E-rate is? Well, E-rate pays for internet access as well as for the internal connection. So it brings internet to the door of the school or library, and then from there, the redistribution of that connectivity through the classrooms, through the different library parts of the library building is supported through the E-rate program.
So, Mala, let me just restate that since 1998, you have been involved in one way, shape, or form with delivering $1.83 billion to over 200 libraries throughout and so it's a beautiful, so like what a force for health hero. I mean, that's why there are so many unsung heroes that are behind the scenes of making things happen. People say they want to be competitive and be innovative with education, communications, and healthy communities. And so much happens below the level. So I'm so excited that we get to kind of like put a spotlight on one of our state heroes. Okay, let's just say that. And it's a great transition into kind of what I wanted to ask you about. So we talk about E-rate. Of course, all of us know what E-rate is, but I'm always like the Main Street mama perspective. The family leader. So why does this matter? Talk to us about what you want. You're a mom, right? We're all parents. What do you want families to know about E-rate so that when they go to the voting booth or when they're talking and there are policies that actually have something to do with E-rate, they know, then they're coming from a foundational sense of knowledge and they know the possible implications, what would happen if E-rate were to be funded. Okay.
Correct.
So how would you answer that?
Well, being a part of a family that has moved from India to the US, I know how the systems work, the libraries work in other countries in India, and I have been, to training folks, library folks in Hong Kong, and I've been to England where we got funding through the British Council libraries for our Indian libraries. They are not free, and you have to pay to be a member of a library. You have to, and you are limited in the number of books you can borrow every time you come to the library. And it's not the same scenario as it is in libraries here. At the British Council Library in Bombay, where I was working, every day we would have about 3,000 people that came to the library, all on one floor. You can imagine how crowded it would be. And students could borrow 4 books at a time, and they couldn't even afford the membership. So they would actually share the cost of a membership and each one would take one book for a month, for a period of a month. And that's how it used to work. But when the first time when we came here as a family, right after getting your IDs, the first thing is to go to the library and get yourself a library ticket, library card, so that you could borrow books. And we were blown over not only by the collection in the library, but that it was for free, and you could borrow as many books as you wanted. Use the e-resources that were available. You could go home, sit in the comforts of your home, and listen to an audiobook or watch a movie. Download it and watch it. And that is what I want most families to know. If you haven't walked into your public library, during this year or any year, walk in. Just see what resources the libraries have for you, for all ages, from the cradle to the rocking chair, as we would call it, and all kinds of resources in whatever form you want it. If you want an accessible kind of book for your parent who is not able to see or read, we have our talking book library as a part of the state library that actually sends these little readers home that you can that have books downloaded onto them. You can access these books online, and that's what is most important. And why what role does E-rate play in this? If we didn't have online access, you wouldn't be able to borrow these online books or see these online databases or online resources. Lots of do-it-yourself, lots of help, homework help. All of that is available online and possible because of E-rate. Now, libraries are trusted places. So you could go to a library, for example, and be sure to get information that is trustworthy, apolitical, that is community sensitive, community friendly places. Librarians are trained to be community friendly. And in every community, your library is not too far away from you. We have over 220 libraries within Arizona, and they're all small. Every rural area has libraries. They may not be open all 7 days or all 5 days, but and Kelly, some of them may have just volunteer.
I was going to say, Kelly, do you have the? Can you go ahead and bring that layer up on your map, and let me know
on it
when you have that, so we can bring it up. And Mala, and I want to just kind of capture a thought, right? That you had said they're free. Okay, first of all, parents, guess what? You've got this tremendous resource in your neighborhood, wherever you are, unless you are disconnected rural, right?
Yeah.
But even the rural counties have some place that is publicly funded that you can go to be a resource. And what we're trying to do is make that point amplified with regards to your role in the healthy ecosystem of any community. And by being an asset, a free asset to parents, know that it is apolitical. It is, there to serve. And we're so excited to even pilot, what we'll talk about at the end of the show, right? A Fit Family Force type of deal, which is where we can kind of partner in getting word out, and you guys play a role of connectivity. So, I think that's awesome. I think Steve or Kelly, do you by chance have that library pulled up?
I do.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead? I'll take the banner off, and you can kind of just spot check, before we go into Steve's final question from Mala right here. What are we looking at, Kel?
Thank you. Here on the As One web portal, we have our Arizona interactive broadband map. When you pull it up, there are interactive layers on the right-hand side. If you check the community anchor institutions layer, underneath it, if you open up this caret, you'll be able to see we do have a libraries layer where you can see all the wonderful libraries across the state of Arizona. Please feel free to zoom in to your neck of the woods and see what library might be closest to you.
And this For as a reminder, right, Mala sits on top of the program that is responsible for connecting the whole state with regards to libraries and anchor institutions. So, Steve, I pass the baton to you, I believe, for the last question. Oh no, I guess it's still me. So, okay, let's stay here, right?
Yeah.
It's a good transition.
Okay.
In terms,
There we go.
and
Yeah.
sorry about that. In terms of like one of your favorite projects that you wanted to talk about, that is an example of playing a role in the healthy system. I believe it was.
We just wanted to mention that many years ago I was president of the Friends of the Tucson Public Library, and then eventually went to the library board. And I was president at the time we opened one of the branches here, and it was named after a county supervisor that I was friends with. And so I said to her, this is my library. It's not only my library because I live close by, but it's my library because that's what people say. In their neighborhood, the library is their library. And that's really important, that people feel that they can be a part of the community, and that how important the library is. So I just thought that was really important, and that's certainly what Mala is all about. And so I think, Mala, what we wanted to ask you was, so you have a dream, and we've been been into this for a long time now. But what's your dream? What would you really like to see happen, particularly in the next couple of years, in terms of libraries and broadband and digital inclusion?
Well, we were gonna pop on and talk about the spotlight, right? The Tuba City and the Navajo, if you were ready to go, and then we will kind of end with that beautiful home run situation question.
Sure.
Perfect.
Sure. I would love to share with you some of my recent interests have been mainly in telehealth area. That is a way to utilize the broadband. Broadband itself, like electricity, as Dr. Rob said, it takes a shape only when you use it for something. And telehealth has been a major interest of mine. And one of the things that we used it for was creating a telehealth program. And I'll give you my favorite example. And this is at Tuba City, Navajo Nation area. And we were building out broadband to many of those, many of the Navajo Nation chapters. And one of the chapters that we built out to was very close to Tuba City. And we wanted to do a liver scan project there because the Navajo community were, medical literature actually says that they are predisposed to liver cancer. And so they really wanted to do a preventive study and help people catch them early. And the doctors at U of A and NAU had a grant from NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health, to do this project. So they had liver scan equipment and all that. Our library's contribution was that we bought equipment to do a pre-testing, like, for example, a blood pressure cuff, a thermometer, a pulse oximeter, and blood glucose testing, and those kind of things, which are in backpack kits, which we give participating libraries through a grant, the LSTA grants. And we supply these to our libraries that are interested in participating in telehealth and creating what are called TAPs, the telehealth access points in our libraries. So Tuba City had one of these, couple of these backpack kits, and we borrowed them to the chapter house where these doctors had come to do the liver scan. It was advertised only through flyers that were put on every single door, a door hanger. And this was done by Navajo Nation students of nursing. They went around each household in that region and just put these door hangers and invited them to a free liver scan over the Memorial Day weekend. And the Memorial Day Friday, before the Memorial Day weekend. And that's important, why I'll let you know. Because we thought that maybe 25, 30 of them would show up. We pitched a tent outside the chapter house in order to have the pre-screening done We had nursing students there under the supervision of their mentor, and they did the scanning. They did the preliminary screening, and they sent them in for the scan to the library, which was just one big room of maybe 500 square feet, and that's it. So they set it up there for them to have the liver scan, and then they come out and get an analysis of what they get of healthy lifestyle and things like that. And live in real time, this scan was sent to NAU, looked at by a radiologist who would, in real time, send it back, all possible because of broadband, send it back and let the nurses there know who has a proclivity to liver cancer and who doesn't, who needs to see their doctor about it and who doesn't. And those kind of reports came back in real time, maybe 5-10 minutes or so. And the nurses then read it out to the patients and let them know whether they need to see a doctor or not. We planned for about 25 to 30 liver scans through the day. More than 120 people showed up. And the doctors had to stay back for the Memorial Day weekend and do it because they didn't want to haul all this equipment back and bring it back again another day or another weekend or some other time. And they did it over. They sacrificed their Memorial Day weekend and they did it over that period of time. They were the youngest that was brought for the testing was a 6-month-old, and the oldest was in his 90s. Wow. And the community really, they benefited because you catch those patients or community members young and prevent it from actually becoming cancer, in the pre-cancerous stage. And that is so important. Telehealth is important, keeping people out of hospitals and out of costly medical care. And again, this was possible only because they could Zoom, they could talk to the radiologist, they could Zoom and they could send via the internet their reports to NAU and get it back in real time. So that was one of my favorite projects.
And I brought Rob back up because, and I'm hoping he was listening to that and let me know. You were listening to that the whole time backstage, right? Oh, and you're muted. But what I was going to say and highlight, and because Rob acts as our chief medical officer, and I know that he always has that kind of perspective. But what I wanted to say is that was a perfect example of a multi-pronged collaborative, thing happening in a place of need that proved to be worthwhile and needed, right? Planning for 25, getting 120, you brought it to them. They didn't have to leave their space. You had willing volunteers and doctors, and all within a 48-hour period, 24-hour period, you're able to get all of that done. And Rob, I just wanted to, before we kind of go into Steve's kind of like, wishful thinking, and that's how we get, really good. Rob, respond to, again, that story that she shared and why it's so important for people to understand what role they play.
Well, the ability to have an anchor location with some trained staff to facilitate is very valuable. I'm struck by what you were saying. It becomes an oasis is the analogy I would give. And I was looking at where the oases, whatever the plural of oasis is, on Kelly's map are, where you have this concentration almost of libraries based on the number of people with that concentration around Phoenix and Scottsdale. But almost anywhere on this map of Arizona that I found myself falling out of an airplane with a parachute, there was a library in the region. You haven't ignored the whole state. And if every one of those places across the state could do the examples of what you're just talking about, what a wonderful and fundable, I think, vision that you can enable there with the broadband, the resources, the outreach locally and regionally at each library, especially the rural ones, become very valuable.
Absolutely.
And, Steve, from the get-go of us doing this, it was very important to all of us that we blend this intersection of health, education, connectivity, because it is not just these siloed, oh, your broadband, your health, your education, which is what Kelly, it's so interesting how many different conversations are going on, but they're not talking across the way. So that's what it is that we're trying to do here. Kelly, you have any comments on that before we kind of get into our third section? I didn't know if you had any other examples of maps or stories that you wanted to share.
Well, we do have a story written by a student that talks about broadband being a social determinant of health. So if anybody wants to dig in deeper and learn more real life examples of what that means, that is available on the AZBSN web portal. And thank you, Dr. Rob, for pointing out that the map provides a visualization to help us see how broadly our libraries actually connect, all parts of the state. We really do have a lot of wonderful libraries and resources, and really appreciative to Mala for all of her efforts in connecting and trying to get as much funding to each of these libraries as possible through her decades of experience.
You speak of funding, and it reminds me of a student story. Is I have a student. I'm part of a foundation called Educom in Ghana, and one of our students that worked there is now a PhD student at the University of Wisconsin, working on food research and supply chain issues back in his native Ghana. But one of the things he pointed out to me, it goes beyond education and health. When the internet, and he was utilizing a donated, whatever the guy's name is, who has the satellite stuff. You know who I mean. But with that satellite downlink, his village got lit up. And it wasn't just a little education, and it wasn't just some telehealth, very basic. Is this infected enough that we should send someone 3 days to the hospital on the back roads? But it put his village on the map for banking and having a financial account that is tied to a international store where the crafts of weaving various baskets out of various grasses could be sold and gotten to the market for DHL to deliver them anywhere in the world. So you take a very poor village relying on 99% on agricultural crop to be able to take their arts and crafts and build music, build a business internationally, because there's no local market. Everybody makes the baskets, but internationally it's a market. Get the money, create their bank accounts, go from there. Lucy, here's an artifact. I'm not sure what that is. That was Lucy, I guess. Something in her computer. But I think that's it's well beyond health. I'm health focused, and you mentioned social determinants. One of the social determinants is money. To have enough money to buy my food, to pay for minutes on my cell phone, buy my medicines, transportation. From one of your microphones. Sounds like feedback to me. That's the sort of thing I would do by accident. Steve, have you experienced that feedback in any other locations?
I did. It's possible it's mine, but I did. I have been muting my mic, but I am getting feedback from my speakers for some reason.
I am too. Mute your mic again, see if it goes away. This is a test. Can anyone hear? Audio is good now?
I think that helped. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. So Dr. Rob, back to what you were saying, I think affordability is definitely something to think about when we're thinking about broadband, when we're thinking about accessibility, when we're thinking about this digital age. Affordability really has to play a key part in our thought process when we're planning inclusivity and trying to make sure that people have access to the skills and the connectivity and the infrastructure, right? You do bring up a really good point that we do need to keep in mind that things need to be affordable across the board.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's where the download from the satellite company required about a $2,000 a month donation from someone to make possible. Whereas they were throwing them around like candy in Ukraine, you know. So depending on the military use of broadband in connectivity is funded heavily in many places around the world and probably here, but for the social good. The other thing, you know, Kelly, you're talking about with the affordability is important. The sense of community that I think people get in an isolated region. You know, there's a lot of talk about too much screen time, too much time online. But at the same time, if you're very isolated, especially from a cultural standpoint, you know, you're way out in the rural area. And if you had internet of a high enough quality, well, like we do, we're on a Zoom together, sharing interests across multiple disciplines and multiple ethnicities. But at the same time, I'd love to be on with 5 other Italian folks that are trying to imitate their grandmother's spaghetti sauce. I have no access to that in this primarily German community here in central Pennsylvania. But that, especially, let's say, amongst the tribe with the elders, sharing languages that are disappearing, sharing songs that are disappearing, or creating new songs like Lucy, the songwriter, using her broadband connection to tie people together with music, not just with content or telehealth or an automated textbook.
Well, what you just said was exactly what came up on our last task force meeting. Was an example. I believe it was Christy from Yavapai County, when we were talking about the topics. You know, she said, my favorite story, and this is what we're trying to grab, these beautiful stories so we can share them and amplify. But she had one person that was so excited about going through the digital navigation process and kind of working that she was then able to share her recipes with people very easily. And it was just such a simple thing that we all take for granted, you know, but really our rurals are. Now, Steve, you were in the studio twice, and so I think that's what was causing echo. Hopefully your sound is okay now.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's okay now.
Yeah, it's good here.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so I think we wanted to tee up this last kind of question. You want to go ahead and kind of, well, before we do that, let me just do one thing on the, so again, Tuba City and the Navajo Nation and the doctors and the libraries and everybody teamed up to bring assessments out to the people instead of the people to the assessments. We took financial barriers away and we saved lives. I mean, I believe from a 6-month-old, I'm part of your team, Mala, if you can't tell.
Yes,
right? When I say we, I mean this collective voice of what we're trying to put out there, this initiative. But I just kind of wanted to capture that right here.
And the one thing I would add to that is also the education part of it for those nursing students who came in and helped, you know, with their mentor, because this is their clinic time for them, because they don't get hands-on otherwise, you know. And this is a wonderful way of learning through the community itself.
Was it NAU or ASU nurses?
NAU and U of A. They had a collaborative NIH grant.
I just want to give them a little bit of shout out. So thank you, NAU and U of A nursing students. You're right, because this is exactly what we're trying to build towards too, is these real life. I mean, our thing is whole reality health games. It's like, hey, it's not something you have to go learn. It's something you better know and practice, because it's going to help all of us.
And also what is important is that you have people who understand their community. So these nursing students who were coming from Navajo Nation understood the cultural sensitivity of that community, and having them go and drop these off, door hangers off, and having them be the people that first greet them when they come in, putting up those tents and having them greet them at the tent was so important. You know, I think every little aspect of this project was so vital for its success. And
I love that. Cultural sensitivity and relevance matters. And that's why, again, cross-sector, up and down, and collaboratively, not siloed, is
right. You know, and
go ahead.
I had one more thing to add to what Dr. Rob was saying, that that social isolation that you're talking about, it reminded me of my own family. My mom was all by herself. My dad had passed on, and she was living by herself in India. And when she had to get something repaired, an AC repair or a fridge repair or something, I would always be there on Skype for her. And I would have her computer where I could see the workmen working, so that I could communicate with them or communicate with her and through her to them. And they see that they are being watched. They are not alone with an old woman in her 80s, and working on her, whatever that they needed to help with. So that social isolation is so important.
That's looking out for your family member or your neighbor. Kelly brought up the point about expense, and we got to make it affordable, not just available.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm driven to is I have broadband, but I have money, and it doesn't affect me. But my neighbor next door might not have it. And the analogy I give is, I'm writing a blog right now. I'm trying to make it right without being political, but the cost of transportation is a public health issue, just like the cost of broadband. And so the ability, if people were connected by broadband and say, I have a doctor's appointment, I can't get to it because I can't afford the gas, or the person who drives me can't afford the gas or can't afford to take time off of work, can someone out there help me? So it can be the combination model, like you're saying, of one task, in-person supervision of a repair person, task like driving your neighbor to a doctor's appointment.
Right.
The broadband facilitates that happening. The sense of community can facilitate that. And I think that's another neighbors looking out for neighbors. What broadband does, it creates a larger neighborhood.
Exactly.
Potentially worldwide, like you're talking about.
And so, Steve, you're up for the my favorite question. So go ahead.
Okay, but two quick things. First of all, Rob, you've been very articulate, as all of you have, of making it clear about that broadband and digital inclusion covers all aspects of life.
Right.
And for every population, seniors, students, parents, everybody benefits from having broadband and digital inclusion resources and capabilities and talents available to them. So it's absolutely critical. And of course, again, we've mentioned about how critical libraries are and benefits of libraries over the years. But so Mala, I guess going back to my question earlier, is so we've been at, as I said, we've been at this a long time, but what would you like to see next? What's the most important thing for you in this whole broadband digital inclusion journey that we've all been on?
I think I can sum it up in 3 words: broadband for all. And by that, what I mean is it's 3 small words here there, but it means a lot. It encompasses a lot. We started off during the COVID time by giving people hotspots, by putting Wi-Fi in parking lots so that people could come and get their homework done, get their doctor appointments done, whatever they needed to do. They could do it from the parking lot, sitting in their car where the Wi-Fi reaches out to them. But this is only a Band-Aid. It's only interim. We are waiting for the BEAD funds to kick in. BEAD is our broadband. What is BEAD? Our IIJA, the Jobs Act that President Biden created for the funding to trickle down for us to be able to start the process. Our Arizona has been awarded $993 million to get our broadband connectivity out to the rural areas and to connect every single household. We created a map of those who were underconnected or unconnected, unserved or underserved, as we call them, and to have them all connected. And it is possible because there are libraries and schools in every area as point of connection from where the connectivity can be drawn to their local households and local stores and local boys and girls club and senior citizens places and all of that. So my dream is to see that is to have every single household connected, if possible, at gig speeds. We have several of our libraries that are offering telehealth services at the library, but to even get them to the library, we require transportation. This could almost be another whole segment, Lucy, because we have a grant, a potluck grant that we're doing with Aging Arizona, where we're providing transportation to senior citizens to come who don't have transportation, who don't have internet access, and whose neighborhood doesn't have broadband access, to bring them to the library in their neighborhood so that they can have a Zoom call with their doctor. And just to quote a visitor's comment from one of our Tuba City library telehealth Zoom calls, she said, I had to take a whole day off to take my elderly father to his doctor's appointment in Flagstaff and find care for my young children. The library is just 5 minutes drive from my home. I can take my father and kids there and drop them off and pick them up when he's done. A library is a safe place for my kids to stay, read, play, and I don't lose my day's pay or pay for daycare for that day for my children. It's so important. And it's important for us to raise awareness about the services that we do already have, like our Talking Book Library that has services for the veterans, services for those who are handicapped and who can't hold a book in their hands, or dyslexic children who can't read normal text, and to have these delivered through audio services. Imagine if they can go to a library, pick up a book, and have the same book delivered through audio on their computer, and they sit and hold the book in their hand and have someone read it out to them. How important or how good is that to help them learn and overcome their dyslexia, and feel that sense of confidence that, yes, I can do it too. The other dream of mine would be to have navigator assistance. It's not everybody who's digitally savvy, even if they have hotspots, even if they have the internet connectivity at home, but to have someone who's on the other end of a phone, who can guide you through how this process works, how you can get to your health portal, how you can get to what those numbers mean on my blood pressure reading, those kind of things. And again, I just hope that we don't have the money for everything, but if we collaborate, join hands, do things together, we can make plenty of things happen that we couldn't do individually. I think that's my message, my thought for an answer to Steve.
Which we're seeing happen in real life. I mean, so my real life example very quickly is, and I'm not going to name organizations right now. I just want to talk high level, but we're piloting some programs and we're trying to pull them through some healthcare acceleration stuff. Didn't realize until a quarter of the way through the program that these students had phones. They didn't even have large display, which is a learning barrier, right there, regardless of connectivity. So what did we do? I mentioned it on Steve's next weekly call, got all the people together. And within a week, we were able to have devices in their hands, one of which came from her local library. She went down, she got her card, and she was able to have a laptop from her local library to finish that. All because Lucy was on Steve's call that, talked to them, and we all made that happen. So even if it was one student this last month, it's a perfect example of why this type of communication matters. Steve, Kelly, Mala, we all know, oh yeah, if somebody knew that, go to this place, but it's not really easily deliverable. And then the other thing that I just want to say really quickly is you mentioned something that that has slipped my mind because I got so excited about that. But let's go. You know, I love that. And of course, you want to see every household connected. That's the Shangri-La. That is like the perfect deal, is that it just lifts the costs off of everybody because the entire community is connected in one way, shape, or form. Let's lean in.
Just as you were saying that, coming to AZBSN and meeting up with people like me and others, you get ideas of what you can do next. It's the same with me when I meet up with you, Lucy, because and you didn't set me up to say this. I'm saying this.
Let me put you on feature for that. Go ahead.
Thank you. And what I tell my librarians and other teenagers that I meet is that eating healthy, exercising, all of those are important. And if you log into Force for Health, you can earn badges just learning about those skills, learning about how diet affects what you do, how good habits, healthy habits, not sitting for a whole hour on your PlayStation and playing games, but just getting up and walking every hour for at least 5 minutes. Do whatever you need to do. But if you go to Force for Health, you can actually earn badges for this. And if you earn enough, if you go through the program, you can become an ambassador for health. And being an ambassador for health, you can train your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, and others, your seniors, on how they can access all of this. And, much as I like to, I can't be on it as long as I want. But I know if there is a senior citizen, they would, have more time than I do and would be able to go through. It's very addicting, it's really addicting. If you go through one video, you want to go to the next and the next.
God love you. I mean, the fact that you offer that up is awesome. And let me tell you, this experience with this group, everything you guys tell me, whether it's a meeting or on Steve's call, continuing to improve. So we're so excited on this little snowball, right? This little pebble that we popped off this snowy mountain, because it's like building steam and moss. So I appreciate that all very much. Because I was able to capture that, right? Let's just, for recap, start young. And listen, it was always been Rob and my dream to create this accessible virtual health library. So the fact that, and we started back in 2017, this partner and I, through all these different versions. So it's kind of like a full circle moment. I'm going to try not to cry here, that I'm getting that praise from you based on what we're trying to do here. And Kelly's involvement from the get-go with, the power of who ASU is and her mapping capability, and Steve with just the aggregate. This is like going to be one of my final statements here, but I thank you. I did have a song teed up that I thought could be culminating to play, but it is 3-4 minutes, but that'll take us over 3 minutes. Can we go ahead and just play it? Yes, and then we can run a little bit late with some follow-up. So, part of this concept of mixed media, or at least bringing messages to people in a way that would impact them. Some people like visual, some people like to read, some people might actually hear a song, so we're going to be incorporating this concept of music and musicality into these lessons. And so I kind of like dumped all of what we've done with our first 3 lessons and created this song. This happens to be in an indie type of format, but we're going to be able to create it in different genres. Right. And it's kind of fun because it's the same exact lyric in different genres. And then by the time you go through 6 of them and you're like doing the little challenge, you now hopefully know the key components, right, of the songs. And so let's go ahead and just play that. Listen to it. Might not be your favorite genre, but it is kind of a nice way to kind of circle up this episode 1 of season 2 with a recap from there. Let's go ahead and pull this up, and we'll take that off, and we'll go ahead and play it. You guys hear it? And I'll go ahead and scroll through the lyrics as we go through.
united with a vision and task force call to bridge the great divide and lift us all. With Steve Peters and the AZBSN crew, Lucy and Dr. Rob brought the view to you. It's not just wires, it's a human right. Ain't super determined and shining bright. From education to the doctor's care, we're building a network where we all can share. My healthy broadband, lighting up the state, connecting every family before it's too late. We learn it, we live it, we share it loud. A force for health, making Arizona proud. From the rural road to the city street, we're making our community shine, gonna bleed. We kicked it off with Kelly and the As One Map, closing the gaps in the literacy trap. We heard Mr. Mossberger's story so true, how collection helps him and his healing through. Teresa from Chesapeake brought the heat with the Einstein Network and shoes on feet. Starbucks, laptops, and community care, proving equity happens when we're all there. My healthy broadband, lighting up the state, connecting every family before it's too late. We learn it, we live it, we share it loud. A force for health, making Arizona proud. From the rural world to the city street, we're making our community strong and complete. Then we travel rural with Heather Floyd, Valley Telecom, filling the digital void. Fiber to the farm and the ranchers gate. Care of folks says Telehealth cannot wait. We learn that access is the master key to thriving our health and economy. Collaboration is how we survive, keeping our rural communities alive. We learn it, we live it, we share it loud. A force for health, making Arizona proud. On the road to the city street, we're making our communities strong and complete. Then Scotty Ward, something keep us secure with cyber safety tip a stop willing door. Don't just delete it, report the spam. Protect your identity, stick to the plan. Redo that, brew, use a phrase, not a word. Make sure your digital voice is heard. For 770s to the private screen, we're the safest families you've ever seen. Oh, my healthy broadband, lighting up the state, connecting every family before it's too late. We learn it, we live it, we share it loud. A force seek health, making Arizona proud. From the rural roads to the city street, we're making our communities strong and complete. So join the task force, download the app. We're putting our feeling right on the map. Ready and resilient, we stand as one. The work is hard, but we've just begun. My healthy broadband. Oh, 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 my healthy broadband.
I mean, come on. I just can't not move to that, right? I mean, it's at first, the first time I heard that version, I was like a 6. And then I listened to it again, and then I was like an 8. And now when I listen to it, I can't stop moving. So I did see some heads bouncing over there. But let that transition into final recaps. You can either comment on the song or your key takeaway. And I'll start with you, Kelly.
That was so much fun. It is a pleasure always to have Mala, and that's why we've got so many stories on her on As One, and we continue to add some more. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
Awesome. And Mala.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share all this. You know, E-rate and broadband are, like you said, below ground, and no one realizes what it can do for you. And this is brought out so beautifully in this episode.
I'm excited to add the question and the challenge, what is E-rate, to our, kind of Connect for Health and Thrive challenges that will be put in there. Okay, so let's go to Rob.
Well, it's an honor to be on with people that make it valuable that broadband is being put out there. I'm inspired by the work you're doing in Arizona, and I'm taking what I learned from you all to try and do similar things in my community. So thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Steve.
Well, we've all heard about how important broadband and digital equity is, so we don't need to talk about that. But just what Lucy, what you're doing, what Kelly's doing, what Mala's doing, and all of the other people in the state who are doing incredible kinds of work. The biggest challenge, however, is letting people know what's going on. When we started AZBSN years ago, I used to hear from people, well, Arizona's not doing anything. And even today, I hear that because they're not involved. So they don't know about what's going on. They don't know what all the resources are. They don't know about all the incredible people who are working hard every day to bring broadband and digital equity resources to the state. And I think that's the biggest challenge. I mean, we can do all this great stuff, but we got to figure out when you have people who don't have broadband, who don't have a computer, how do you get to those people? Because you can't put it on social media, and you can't send emails, and you can't do all those things that we all take for granted. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges as we move ahead with all of this, is how do we reach those people so that we can get them to be a part of the broadband digital inclusion community.
And I love
So,
that you ended. I love that you ended on that, because Rob and I have built this to be this kind of omni-media type of delivery machine. You know, my favorite medium in the world is non-digital. It's print. It's high quality, tangible assets from real world experts that matter and that last. This is an example of something that's 16 years old that can get passed around the family, right? So the combination of what the tech and old school can deliver here in the upcoming near future with the partners, the nimble, innovative, and collaborative. Those are my 3 words. We have to be nimble, we have to be collaborative, and we have to be innovative. And you all have proven and get 5 stars on all of that based on, what we do behind the scenes to make these things happen, right? So with that, thank you very much. You may have noticed that the graphic says First Thursdays. That is typically when we are on, First Thursdays. So we will see you on the first Thursday in April. This just happens to be a reschedule, and the live viewing date on this is March 12th. So to my guests and my co-host, thank you so much for joining. If you want to do a quick post-show recap, stay in the studio and I'll be right back. But for those of you listening, thank you. And just know you are in reach of access if only you start at your local library. Okay, so thanks for joining, and we will go ahead and sign off. Thank you for joining this episode of My Healthy Broadband. Today's program brought together cross-sector leaders committed to advancing digital equity, highlighting how broadband access really does truly empower overall health, education, and long-term community well-being for everybody. On behalf of the Force for Health Network, special thanks to our co-hosting partner, Steve Peters, and the Arizona Broadband Stakeholders Network Health and Education Task Force, and of course, to today's featured guests. To stay involved, access tools and resources, or even nominate a hero for a future segment, visit theforceforhealth.com and start by joining for free. Then search in the groups for the AZBSN Health and Education Task Force. Future episodes will stream live here on the first Thursday of each month at 3 p.m. Arizona Mountain Standard Time. Let's keep tackling the great digital divide together. One story, one connection, and one community at a time. Until next time, stay healthy, stay connected, and remember, be a force for health, for yourself, your family, and your community. Thanks for your time.